The following is a production of New Mexico State University.
Hi, welcome to the VIGA Show. VIGA stands for Vegetables in Great Abundance. And those of you from New Mexico know that it also stands for the primary beam that goes through an adobe house to make the roof. And that's exactly what vegetables are in our diet. They're one of the primary building blocks upon which we can build a healthy diet. In this series of shows, we're going to be visiting 5 different farmers markets in the Albuquerque area. Now, even if you don't live in Albuquerque, you'll be able to find a farmers market somewhere near you in the state of New Mexico. We've got them all over the state. And what we're going to be focusing on in this show are vegetables that we can buy at the farmers market, and then we'll come back to the studio and show how we can actually prepare those vegetables. Should be a really fun time. Now, the format of the show is going to go this way. We actually went to a farmer's market a couple of days ago, and I picked out some vegetables that we're going to be featuring on today's show. Today we're actually going to be making a salad, which is something you can really make all year, but it's especially nice in the springtime when we've got those new lettuce greens and salad greens coming in. Now, what I did was I chose 3 ingredients, and we'll meet the people who actually grew those ingredients, talk to them at the farmer's market, and then I'll come into the studio with you and show you how you can prepare them and make a simple salad. So let's go ahead and get started. My name, by the way, is Kari Bachman. I work with New Mexico State University and the Cooperative Extension Service, and we teach nutrition education. So that is one of the big focuses here today, nutrition. Now, we're going to be featuring, as I said, a salad today, and you're not always necessarily going to find everything that I've got for my salad at your farmer's market. So just be sure, when you go to the farmer's market, to be flexible. Talk to the growers, see what they've got, and then you can come home and actually experiment and really make something fun in the kitchen. The other thing we like to focus on is kids and their involvement in the process. Kids love visiting farmers markets, getting outside, visiting with the growers, and you can also really involve them once you get home in some of the food preparation. So that's going to be another focus today. Now, this is something that busy families can do. You may think farmers markets, that's something for people who don't work or don't have a lot of kids, but actually any of you can go to the farmers market. It's almost as quick and easy as going to the grocery store, and a lot more fun. We'll visit here with Sue in just a moment, and she'll tell us about her farmers market.
Kari, welcome to the market.
Well, thank you, Sue.
The Los Ranchos market started just about 14 years ago and has grown steadily. And we are very fortunate to have a wonderful group of local growers who come from actually as far south as Los Lunas and Cedar Crest and Placitas to sell here.
Wow.
So we have a good, wonderful group of people. Our season starts May 7th, runs every week through the end of October, and we're here from 7 to 11 in the morning.
Okay, and it's always on Saturday.
It's always on Saturday. We try to have lots of special events to appeal to all ages of people, and we have face painting for kids and free recipe sheets so that you can get a coloring sheet with recipes on it for kids to help with snacks. And we have a variety of different types of food, so you can do your whole menu shopping here.
Well, we're here at the Los Ranchos Growers Market, and this morning I'm visiting with Kathy and her son Joey. Kathy, thanks so much for visiting with us today.
Anytime.
We've got some really wonderful produce here, as you can see on the table. This is one of my favorites. This is arugula, and it's very young arugula. Kathy, can you tell me a little bit about how you grow that?
This arugula we actually wintered over in our cold frames to get young, tender arugula for spring. Spring, as you know, is a time for salads. It's when all of the greens are young and tender and at their peak.
That's right, and arugula is one of those wonderful vegetables that grows better, as you say, when it's cool. It actually doesn't do too well in the hot weather. I hear that you all have an interesting story behind your vegetables. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. Many years ago, because Joe is the youngest of my 3 children, our mid-school here does an 8th grade field trip. After selling many a candy bar, I just could not look at another candy bar. So we decided that this would be the fundraiser. So my children donate their time to the picking and the weeding, and they come here, and I buy all of the seeds and supply the water, and we share what we make here at market, and this is how they earn their trips.
Wow, that's really wonderful. Now, Joey, do you work with other kids as well, or is it pretty much a family thing?
Pretty much a family thing.
Uh-huh. And you all were growing before this, or was this
We were just mainly growing for ourselves in the backyard.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really a wonderful idea. I mean, as we know, schools are really pinched for money, and a lot of them feel compelled to sell things like candy bars and cookie dough. This is a great example of how you can actually make money for your school without going to sell something that's not very nutritious. How much money, do you have a sense of how much you bring in for the food, the school food? Do you have a sense of how much you bring in for the field trip?
My son will probably earn enough money to pay for his field trip completely this summer.
Wow. That is just wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Kathy. We really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and get some arugula. Well, that was great to see the arugula and Kathy and Joey actually telling us how they grow it and actually use it for funds for Joey's school. I think that's incredible. This is the same arugula. I've kept it for a couple of days, and you can keep it in the refrigerator in a bag. If it gets a little wilted, you can refresh it in cold water like this. But of course, what you want to do first with any leafy vegetable, or most vegetables in general, is wash it before you eat it. Now, you can see I'm actually using what I call the swish method. And that gets vegetables clean without having them under too much stress of running water. The other thing with running water is you end up using too much water. Now, this arugula is just beautiful. If you're familiar with radishes, the leaves actually look quite a bit like radish leaves. And that's because it's in the same family as radishes. It's in the mustard family. And that is a family that actually has a lot of really healthy vegetables in it for us. Broccoli, cauliflower, kale, which we'll be seeing in another show. And all of these green vegetables are just packed with nutrients. We call them phytochemicals because some of them we don't even really know how they help us exactly. They seem to help our cells fight off infections and fight off things like cancer, basically just helping us be healthy in a lot of different ways. So it's really important that you and your kids try to eat a lot of green, dark green leafy vegetables, just like arugula. Now, before I wash this last piece, I just want to taste this. This is one of the best tasting vegetables. And if you've never had it, I really encourage you to try it. It tastes a little bit like a radish, tastes a little bit like mustard, which is also in the same family. But it also has sort of a nutty and a peppery flavor. It's just incredibly complex. What I like to do with arugula is mix it with other salad greens that aren't quite as sharply flavored. And that's what we're going to see in the next segment. Stay tuned and see how we can combine this arugula with lettuces for a delicious salad. All right, well, we've got our arugula for our salad, and now what we're going to look for is some delicious lettuce greens. And I'm talking with a couple of growers here. This is Phil and Retta. And they make a really interesting combination. You can see we've got salad greens, lettuce greens growing here, and then Retta actually has makes her own soaps and sells them at the farmer's market as well. So you really get a variety of things when you come out to the farmer's market. Now, Phil, why is it nice to grow your own lettuce or to buy it at a farmer's market as compared to, say, a grocery store?
Well, you can get some varieties here that you won't find in the grocery store. The grocery store is going to try to sell things that ship well and package well and have a long shelf life. Where there are some really nice lettuces, like this bib, okay, that you can find at some grocery stores, but not all the time. And they usually sell it under other names. And then the leafy lettuce, I have the black-seeded Simpson. It doesn't travel well at all.
Right. Well, we can even see with the wind today,
right,
it's
the wind's
gotten
kind
a little bit.
Wilted it a little bit. And I had 4 varieties today, but I'm down to 2. They've been selling really well.
Oh, great.
Which is nice.
Well, and apparently you all live just across the street from the market, right?
Right.
So this is really local food at its best.
This is right, yeah.
Traveling just about a block to get here to the market. What are some of the things that you all like to do with lettuces?
Well, it's salads. It can really spice up your sandwich.
Okay.
And gives it much more fun to eat with some lettuce on it.
That you do it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That makes a big difference, doesn't it?
I just feel that vegetables that are grown locally and have been minimally processed have more nutrients and are probably a lot healthier for you than lettuce that you might get in the store.
Well, and it's traveled, like we were saying, so many fewer miles that it just makes sense that it's going to taste better and maintain its nutrients more than something that's packed in from California or from Chile. And so, coming to the market, you can see you actually get wonderful produce as well as get to meet the people who are actually growing it. So it's a win-win situation for all of us. Well, thank you all so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Well, we really got to the market a little bit late, and Phil and Retta's lettuce was a bit droopy by the time we got there. So what I did actually is yesterday I went and visited them on their farm and actually got some real fresh lettuce that we're going to be using today. You can see we've got 4 different varieties here, just beautiful. This one is called a ruby lettuce because of the beautiful color. Look how nice and big that is. This is called a black-seeded Simpson. And these are both actually leaf lettuces rather than heading lettuces, this is a heading lettuce, more typical, more similar to what you would see maybe in the grocery store. It's called a bib lettuce. And then finally here, one of my favorites. This is called romaine or cos. It's actually on a small side because it was planted more recently than these others. But this is actually one of the healthiest lettuces. That's the interesting thing with lettuces. The darker the color, the healthier they tend to be for you. Now, how do you go about cleaning lettuce? Well, let me show you here with the romaine. You want to just actually very gently tear off the leaves. And the reason we do this is the lettuce is very fragile. And so once you've torn the leaves off, then again, just use the swish method. You can see how simple. The dirt just comes straight off of them. Use that swish method, and then you can put them into your bowl and then do a few more leaves. Now, this is something kids really like to do, and I encourage you to teach your kids how to do it. It's something even 3-year-olds can learn to do, and they can have a lot of fun and really give you some help in the kitchen. Probably the easiest thing for them is to just very gently tear these off and then swish in the water, just like this. And if they're old enough to tell the bad parts, they can actually take those off for you too. So we're getting our lettuce going here. These are a little bit milder in flavor than that arugula, and so that's something that'll kind of balance off that peppery, nutty flavor. Now the last thing that we're going to be putting into our salad is a bit of a surprise, and let's go ahead and visit with Sue, who actually grows these things.
I'm an organic grower, and through the New Mexico Organic Commodity Commission, and we have an orchard in our backyard. And one of the things that I always like to point out to people are dried apples and pears, which are always fun to do.
Oh, these are wonderful.
We use them for snacks. We put them in our salad. We actually eat a lot of oatmeal, and we put them in the oatmeal in the morning and let it cook with the oatmeal.
Right, so it actually rehydrates them.
Right.
That's wonderful, and so you, in a sense, have fresh local fruit all year round,
That's
even though these are winter fruits.
That's correct. And then we also do the tomatoes, and the tomatoes can be rehydrated or thrown directly into a super stew. People buy these also to cook with a cream sauce over pasta, and they let the cream hydrate inside. And sometimes throw in like dried chili flakes, which you can also get at the market.
So we've got our arugula, we've got our lettuce, and now what I think I'd like to do is actually put some dried fruits into the salad. It kind of adds a nice sweetness, especially with the peppery, mustardy flavor of the arugula. I think you'll find that it's really, really delicious. So, Sue, I think we'll go ahead and get a couple of bags of the pears and the apples.
Great.
So have you ever put fruit in your salads? It's a really nice trick to actually help get your children excited about eating salads. Makes them taste a little bit sweeter, and it's a food that generally children like a little bit more than vegetables. They're real familiar with pears and apples. Now the dried form is really unique, and this is something you're not going to find in the grocery store in this wonderful form that you see here. You see the skins are still on here. These are the pears. I'm going to put a few of these into the large bowl. And then these here are the apples. You can see the beautiful red skin on them. I just love fruit, and dried fruit is really tasty. You can just eat these just out of hand like this. A little bit chewy, a little bit crunchy, and they have that really nice fresh fruit flavor in a dried form. Now, you're not going to want them that chewy in your salad, so one thing that is nice to do is what I call rehydrate them. And you can see what I've done here is just poured in a little bit of water. Now, when we're working with fruit, we want to actually add a little bit of acid as well, and I'm just putting in a bit of cider vinegar made out of apples too. That's just going to keep the fruit from discoloring, and it's not going to affect the flavor in a bad way. Now what you can do is just let these soak for a little while until they're the texture that you like them for your salad. One of the things with the fruit, like I said, is you can really get your children interested in salads. And salads is an interesting and unique thing that you can really build into your diet almost every day. But don't start with having a goal of every day if right now you're not eating salads at all. Make your goal realistic. Let's say, for example, you want to set a goal to enjoy a salad with your family twice a week. Well, that's something that might be doable. You could do it on the weekend and then one time during the week. Your kids will get used to the flavors, and then over time you can start enjoying salads a little bit more often throughout the week. Let's go ahead now and finish up our recipe. Well, let's go ahead and prepare our entire salad. Now, a salad wouldn't be a salad without some kind of a dressing. So that's what we're going to look at right here first. When you're making a dressing, often what we use is a lot of oil and then a little bit of something that's a little sour, and that's kind of the base of a dressing. But what I like to do is use a bit of oil, more for flavor really than texture, and add some other ingredients so that it's not so highly caloric. Even though olive oil is very healthy for us, we have to remember it's still got a lot of calories. So what I'm going to be using here today is actually some really nice plain yogurt. Now if you're not familiar with plain yogurt, this is yogurt without any added sweetener. So it's pretty sour, but you'll see in a second we're going to get some sweetness here from another ingredient in our dressing. So I'm just going to spoon in about half a cup. These measurements don't have to be really that exact. And we'll put it into the bowl here for our dressing. Now, this is also something you can see kids would love to make. It's really super easy. As I mentioned, we're going to use a bit of olive oil, but only enough for some flavoring. So just about 2 tablespoons. Isn't that a beautiful yellow, lemon yellow color? It has so much flavor. And it's so healthy for us too. Got our 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now we have our acid, which often can be lemon juice or lime juice. In this case, we're going to be using some apple cider vinegar. And again, 2 tablespoons of that. So the same amount of vinegar as you've got olive oil. All right, now, how are we going to get this to taste a little bit sweet without adding a lot of extra calories? Well, one trick is you can add sugar to things, and a little bit actually goes quite a long way. So this is just table sugar here. I'm going to actually add 2 teaspoons worth. And that's not very much for this much salad dressing. But it'll add just a touch of sweetness, and again, your kids will really enjoy the salad, I think you'll find. Now, to add a little bit of subtle mustard flavor, because that goes really nicely with the arugula, we're going to put in just, whoops, I have the wrong measuring spoon here. We're going to put in 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, or any kind of mustard that you'd like to use. I like the Dijon because it has a stronger flavor and some really nice pieces of mustard seed. It's not all ground up. And then finally, the last thing that we're going to do is put in just a bit of salt. I've already messed up my 1/4 teaspoon here, but when you pour your salt, remember not to pour it over the bowl. You might end up with too much. Okay, so that's just a 1/4 teaspoon, and I like to use a little bit less so we won't bother getting the rest of that out of the spoon. Now, you can use a spoon to mix this up, but I'm going to go ahead and use a whisk here today, because a whisk will give you a nice creamy texture. Look how nicely that comes together. You can see you're going to have a nice thick dressing that will stick to the lettuce leaves and the arugula leaves, but it's not going to be real goopy. Some of the dressings that you get out of a bottle in the grocery store are just really thick. I like to, if I'm using one of those dressings, add some water to them. But in fact, most of the time I make my dressing like this at home. You see how easy that is to do. Now all that remains is for us to put our salad together. So I've got some of our mixed lettuce leaves here. Remember, we had 4 different kinds of beautiful lettuce. You'll see we didn't tear them too small because it's nice to maintain some texture and some size on the plate. We've got our arugula here. Remember, we washed this before. Now, you might want to tear this into smaller pieces, but you know what? I like to add it whole. You can actually get, a couple of these up on your fork, and they're not too messy to eat this way. And look how beautiful they are in the salad. So we'll add some arugula. This salad here that I'm making could be a large dish salad, maybe for one person or two people, depending on how hungry you are. We've got our rehydrated fruits, our apples and our pears. I'm going to tear these into some slightly smaller pieces. You can see they've softened up a little bit, and look how nice they look in here in the salad. So you can just sort of toss them on top. And then we've got our dressing. So let's pour a little bit of dressing onto our salad. This is a wonderful salad to eat with a nice hearty piece of wheat bread, soups, sandwiches. It's really very versatile, and you can add so many different ingredients to it. A sprinkling of nuts might be nice to put on here. Use your imagination and use what's available at your farmer's market. Now, when you're making a salad, also keep in mind that you can add other vegetables that are colorful, like carrots. You want to eat a lot of bright orange vegetables, as well as salad greens. Well, I'm here at the Los Ranchos Growers Market, and I have found an old friend, Jerry Aragon, who actually works with me in the Cooperative Extension Service. Jerry is one of our ICANN nutrition educators. And you also have your own business in your free time. Tell me what you've got here today, and how did this get started, and tell me a little bit.
Well, here with the market, I've been here, this will be my 13th year going in this summer when we start back in May. And I just started off, they asked me to come out and do a smoothie juice bar. And back then I didn't really know a whole lot about that, but I brought some strawberries and bananas, and people would pass, and I'd blend up, and I'd sell maybe one here and there. And so I got this bright idea of breakfast burritos. I was raised, my grandmother had cafes all over New Mexico, and so I've been familiar with food, and then the ICANN with the food safety. So anyway, I brought 6 burritos, blinked my eyes, they were gone.
Oh
and
my
here
goodness.
I am 13 years later, and I can't have enough baked goods and pozole and the different flavors. I have a lot of loyal customers that really look forward to coming here to have a healthy breakfast.
Well, it's nice too, because a lot of times we'll find sweets but nothing else. And Jerry has a real variety here. And one thing that we like to say in our ICANN classes, a sweet roll every once in a while is fine.
Yes.
You don't need to cut those out of your diet entirely. But tell us a little bit about what you've got here, because this is what I've got my eye on.
I've got the traditional pozole.
Oh,
I've
that
got
looks
the
wonderful.
diced pork, the white corn with some red chili and a little onion, some spices. It is the real traditional pozole that we have here in New Mexico. It's usually our Christmas soup, but here at the market, Christmas is every Saturday morning.
And this time of year when it's cold, it's really a treat.
At 6 in the morning when I'm here, I've had people come and they pick up their quarts to take home. And of course they grab their bowl of pozole and their burrito, and they eat here. I have an extra table, and they sit and have an outside cafe.
That's wonderful. Well, it's neat to see how you can actually educate people who are coming to the market about healthy, fresh foods like this one, which is also a traditional food that we enjoy in New Mexico. A lot of people aren't making this at home anymore, but you can come to the market and Jerry's got it right here fresh. Well, I think I will go ahead and have a cup of that. That would be wonderful, Jerry. Thank you so much. And while you're getting that, let me just explain a little bit about what our program does. I mentioned that Jerry and I both work with the ICANN program, which stands for Ideas for Cooking and Nutrition. And this is a nutrition education program where you can actually come together with a group of people, get together, learn about healthy foods, but then the best part is you actually get to prepare them yourselves and try them. Well, so if I, for example, don't know how to make pozole, but I really enjoy it, I could come to one of your classes and learn?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Oh, that would be wonderful. And we know you're a wonderful cook, Jerry, so that's a real resource in our community here.
We teach a lot of stir fries and a lot of the vegetables and fruits in our classes, so I've taught a lot of people in the community, and more are welcome.
Well, that's great. As you see vegetables on our show that you'd like to learn more about, certainly this ICANN program is a very good resource, so please do give us a call. Thanks so much. That was so much fun running into Jerry at the farmer's market. If you visit the farmer's market, I'm sure you'll find that you'll find old friends there as well. As we mentioned, we've got these nutrition classes that we offer for free. So please do give us a call and we can set you up with classes in your county. I'm going to go ahead and serve up some of this delicious salad. Oh, that looks so tasty. And let's taste and see how that is. You always want to taste things with your kids too. It's wonderful. You can really taste the olive oil, but it's not overly greasy. That's the nice thing about a salad that you make yourself from fresh greens that you buy at the farmer's market, dried fruit that you can buy at the farmer's market. I mean, it's just a wonderful kind of medley of fresh flavors, and it's not heavy at all or boring tasting. Now, you know, the nice thing about vegetables is when we eat as many as we should, we actually feel full from the vegetables, and we're not going to desire other foods that might be higher in calories, higher in fat. The vegetables give us a lot of nutrients, vitamins and minerals, and those are things that we really need in our diets. A lot of us are tempted to eat fast food and other kinds of foods that may not be the healthiest, and it's fine to have those every once in a while. But the reason for this show, the VIGA Show, is to actually think a little bit more about how we can put vegetables into our daily lives and eat them not just as a chore, but as something that we actually really enjoy doing. Now, I did want to mention a special program that we have in New Mexico, and if you are able to receive WIC vouchers, which stands for Women, Infants, and Children, there are actually farmers market coupons that you can receive and go to the farmers market and redeem them for up to $20 of produce every year. So it's a wonderful way to get used to the farmers market, to know where it is in your area, and to try it out with your children. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of VIGA, Vegetables in Great Abundance, and I hope you'll join us as we continue our series. Remember, if you can't find all of these ingredients at one time of year in your farmer's market, don't worry. That's the whole wonderful thing about farmer's markets, is taking advantage of what the local growers have to offer you. You can make any kind of recipe with foods at the farmer's market, and I hope you'll have fun with your kids visiting a farmer's market soon. Thank you.
The preceding was a production of New Mexico State University. The views and opinions in this program are those of the author and do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of the NMSU Board of Regents.
Over 13 million people are affected by famine, war, and drought in the Horn of Africa.
When you hear about suffering on this scale, you feel powerless.
But there's hope, because saving lives doesn't take a lot.
It just takes a lot of us.
Text a donation of $10, but do more than donate. Forward the facts to everyone you know.
Forward from our site.
Forward on Facebook.
And forward on Twitter.
We are the relief.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money.
When life's this hard, graduating can be even harder. But you can help Ativa and the students in your community make it through by visiting boostup.org.
The science of orbital mechanics.
A geostationary or a geosynchronous orbit is an orbit around the equator where the satellite orbits at the same speed as the Earth. So it has the effect of staying in the same place all the time. If you're looking for short-term, time-varying things, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires that might be changing quickly, you want to be staring all the time at one spot. If you're trying to understand the global picture, what's going on in Asia, what's going on in Africa. You need to make those observations, and for that you need a polar orbiting spacecraft, which is an orbit that goes over the poles.
Be sure to tell your teacher to visit the NASA Explore School's virtual campus.